Hello, you're listening to Questboard, a podcast where we normally make up side quests. My name is Brandon.
And I'm Tiffany, and it's our 1 year anniversary.
Yay, we're
Yay,
1 year
fireworks.
old. Is
Aw.
there like a normal like name for it? Because if we go based off like anniversary things, like the wood anniversary or silver anniversary, gold anniversary.
I never remember those. Do you want me to look it up?
No.
Okay.
I know that that's a thing. I just don't know like what year is what.
One of them is wood.
Yeah. Okay, now we have to look it up.
That's weird to me. Like, wood. I mean, yeah, wood's cool and all. If you polish it, it looks neat, but it's not like, I don't know, I'd rather have bronze. I think
Wood
bronze.
anniversary is the 5-year wedding anniversary.
Oh.
At 5 years, wood is the winner. It is said to represent strength, wisdom, and deep roots.
Yeah, okay, that works.
You'll find couples buying anything from wooden furniture as they continue to feather the nest together to wood engraved keepsakes. That sounds like something that's like, oh, clearly Etsy wants you to.
Oh my gosh. Etsy's probably all over that wood anniversary.
I bet.
What's the first anniversary called, though?
First anniversary.
A miracle. No.
Paper.
Oh, gosh.
The name of the first anniversary in year 1 is paper. Gifts can include stationery, or modern alternative is a clock.
A clock?
For year 2, it's cotton, but giving China is also acceptable. Year 3 is called leather. I didn't know about the cotton or leather years.
These are becoming more permanent.
You're the one who's married, Tiffany. You should know this more than I do.
No, I don't. It's like, it's slowly getting more permanent. Like paper, yeah, sure, that won't last very long. Cotton clothes, yeah, those will last a little bit longer. Leather lasts a good long time. Okay, what's 4?
I don't know.
Oh.
This one just goes up to that for that little snippet that I Googled.
Gotcha. Okay,
But
so 4
hey.
probably lasts a little bit longer than leather, and then there's wood.
And then there's like gold, silver. Like those
Yeah.
are probably like 10, 15, 20 or something
Right.
like that.
Oh, is there a different object for every year?
I have no idea, but I think these are just silly traditions that
Mhm.
the capitalistic society decided that's like, oh, you should give these kind of specific gifts.
Darn capitalism.
Yeah, sure. It'll be really ironic if this episode is sponsored. Darn capitalism.
Anyway, here's our sponsor.
Speaking of capitalism, this episode is brought to you by...
No, but if anybody wants to sponsor us, that would be fantastic. Please do.
Yeah, so that we have money to justify us buying new mics, which I should have said in the beginning. We might sound a bit different because we did buy new mics.
Yeah, they're fancy.
Fancier. It's not like super expensive. We're not rich.
That'd be nice.
Hopefully one of these days. I've been eyeing these like very nice ones.
Yeah.
But the problem is we're relying on like USB connections for our mics. But this one is purely LXR cables.
Oh.
So then if I have to buy that, I have to buy a mixer. And then I have to learn how to work a mixer and how to record on separate audio tracks as well. And that's just a whole can of worms that I have to learn.
Yeah, because I'm not doing that part.
I am the audio engineer for
I do
this
other
entire
stuff.
thing. But anyways, it's 1 year.
Huzzah.
And I wanted to just spend an entire episode of us just talk about how we progressed over the years. Or anything like years. Wow, I said multiple.
Aww.
Over the year. But I kind of want to start off with how this podcast came to be.
Yeah.
It was my idea, and I was the one who really pushed it in the beginning.
Yeah, it was completely his idea. I'm just like, oh, cool.
Yeah. So I made one post about this on Reddit.
Nice.
Initially, what started the inspiration for this podcast was a different podcast called Story Break. That has 3 people who are actual professional writers. Freddie Wong, Will Campos, and Matthew Arnold. Those are 3 actual professional script writers that has actually produced movies and actually made shows. Freddie Wong is very known for Video Game High School, which is an online series. He even has like I think it was an Amazon Prime show, Rocket Jump the Show, and all that stuff. But they are part of my favorite D&D podcast, Dungeons and Daddies. And so I started binge listening to Story Break while at work because I was bored at work. And so I was just binge listening to all that stuff. And they were just that podcast that they do, they just take random things and decide to make a movie of it or try to come up with a movie version of whatever it was. Like they've done a couple episodes where it's just like based off the board game Catan. They did one where it's just purely based off the like backstory of the Monopoly Man.
I'd watch these. I haven't even heard them, and I'd watch this.
They did one where it's like, do you remember like the creepy crawlies when you were a kid with the goo where you make your own?
Yeah.
Yeah, 90s kids thing.
Yeah.
They did one based off of like those where and so I was just like binge listening to it and all that stuff.
Couldn't you eat those too, or was that a different set?
I think there was maybe two versions. I do know that there's one that you could eat.
Okay.
And apparently they tasted awful.
Oh, yeah, probably.
But so I was binge listening to that and I was like, oh man, that would be really cool. But I'm no professional writer. But what happens if I just take that and make it into something I like, which is D&D and all that stuff? What happens if it's just creating quests or anything like that? And I was thinking about making a podcast when a friend of mine, he wanted to make a YouTube channel. And so he started recording a bunch of YouTube videos of just gameplay. And I was playing some games with him. So I was like already like recording all that stuff on my end. And we were just playing games together. And he was very like dedicated about it. And that kind of inspired me to like, oh, I want to do something as well. I want to create something as well. But I didn't want to do YouTube or gameplay videos because videos are such a hassle, the video format, because it takes up a lot of space if you want higher quality videos or anything like that. And editing for video is a lot more of a hassle. So I was thinking, oh, podcast where it's just purely audio, that's much more simple. But I was also thinking about doing an actual play D&D podcast.
Yeah.
At the same time until one day, and this was like 2 months before our first episode came out, I actually came to your cubicle at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking to you because I was having an issue with like a campaign idea I was having.
Let's just put the record straight here. Talking in my cubicle is a common occurrence.
Yeah, we normally talk a lot instead of working.
Just saying, we were friends before this.
Yeah, or else I wouldn't invite you on.
Right.
But I was coming up with a campaign for the Dark Souls RPG system campaign. I don't know if you remember us talking about this.
Vaguely.
In which I was because it was like a campaign where you start off in D&D 5th edition, and then a major incident happened, and then I would switch it over to Dark Souls. But I couldn't think of a way to transition it.
Yeah.
And so I came to you about the issue. I was like, and we were just bouncing ideas off of each other. And then after that, I'm like, oh, I could. Then I was more solidified about doing a podcast where we make up side quests.
Yeah.
And so then I asked you if I told you actually on that day of like, hey, I thought about doing this. Would you want to do it?
And I was trying so hard not to be like, I'm in, let's do this. I want to be in put me in the show. I was like, oh yeah, I could totally do that with you. Yeah.
Which is funny you say that because I was very much more on the like a month after that. Okay, when do you want to meet up? Let's do this. I was very much like had to schedule everything. And
yeah, no, I was him-hawing back and forth about whether or not I actually wanted to devote a portion of my life to this. But now I don't regret it.
And I knew that like, because one of the biggest things about starting a project is you always want to do it and then you never start it. And then you just keep pushing off because it's, as a procrastinator myself, I will always push projects out, especially when there's no quote unquote deadline and there's no one else that's relying on me to do it. It's really hard for personal projects because you just keep pushing it back and then it never gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I force myself to be like, okay, let's record the first episode. And then once I upload that first episode, I'm like, I can't miss a Sunday now. And I basically created that hard deadline for myself to actually get things uploaded and all that stuff.
Right. And we haven't missed an episode since that I know of.
No, we have not. There was a couple like close calls.
Miraculously. Yeah.
And especially when after 2 episodes, I'm like, we need to edit.
Yeah. I know.
And
Those
that
first
was
2
all-
episodes are a little rough because there's no editing done.
Yeah, there was no editing done, and I didn't realize a lot of things, and we were learning so much, jumping into the deep end,
Mm-hmm.
that it was. We've gotten better. Let's just say that.
I fully agree with that. Like, I've actually been listening to all of our episodes from the beginning because I've been uploading them to YouTube in video format. But to do that, you have to like have time cards and all like the schedule and things on it. So I've been re-listening to our episodes. It also really helps because I have a terrible memory. So
Actually, I don't know if you remember, but leading up to it, I actually had my personal idea of what this podcast was going to be.
yeah.
So I would love to hear your opinion about what did you expect coming into this podcast, and did it actually like turn out the way you thought?
I expected pretty much what we ended up with. Just us coming up with quests based on whatever's posted on the quest board.
Okay, like for example, for me, since I was like, this is very much inspired by Story Break.
Right.
They were like had like a different dynamic than what we have,
Understandably.
because I was expecting a little bit more. I was argumentative, of just pushing back and forth of like trying to give reasons like, hey, why would this kind of story like beat to it, or this kind of addition to a quest, this makes more sense, and try to like discuss of which version would be better or anything like that.
Yeah, but you have a non-argumentative co-host.
And I didn't fully anticipate that from you. But I would definitely say after a while, I started realizing that is much better for us.
Yeah.
Mostly because if we were actually argumentative, these episodes would be a lot longer,
Yeah.
because it wouldn't be as much of a, okay, yes, let's go with that and move on. Instead, we'll be stuck on the beginning part
Mhm.
for longer. And so then it wouldn't be as fast about us figuring out and getting to the end.
So one thing I've actually learned from going to anime conventions, visiting panels and stuff, there was this one panel about improv. And one of the rules of improv is yes and. You don't like deny, or like, if someone has an idea, you don't shut that down. You roll with that idea. You continue that. So yes, and so that's kind of the take I have on this.
A lot of people like know about the yes and thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, when it comes to like trying to write a good story or try to create a good story, that's not as much of an improv thing in my perspective.
Gotcha.
Because we're just trying to make a good quest item or quest story.
Yes, but you also come up with good ideas, so I tend to like to go with yours. English is hard.
Well, I've done a couple of yes ands with your ideas because it inspired me, or I couldn't really think of anything, so I was like, okay, let's just roll with that. That is set in stone, and then we'll just continue on.
Right.
I feel like sometimes I do get a little bit like, oh, I really don't like that idea. I don't think that's a good one or anything like that.
It's happened a couple of times, and then we came up with something better because of it. So it's not an issue. It's just like you weren't. Yeah, that
I was
part just
really
didn't
not
feel right.
feeling it at
Yeah.
the moment, or I really don't think that like that really helps or enhance what we were trying to do.
And sometimes that idea came back later and actually found a home in a different episode.
Well, okay, there was that one time where I was very much, what was it? It was, I'm trying to remember. I think it was the Glare Bear episode where you wanted like an old person,
The hag?
an old lady to like
Yeah.
talk about and direct the players. I'm just like, I
That's
was
exactly
really
what I
not
was thinking
feeling.
about.
I was really not feeling it at that time.
Right. Yeah. You were just like, no, that's not a good place for her. I'm like, all right, well, she's coming back later.
And
And
I
she
think in the
did.
episode, I promised, I'm like, we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
And then, what was it?
I can't remember what episode it
It
was
was-
exactly, but there was a hag in a forest. Her name was Aunt Fanny.
It was episode 8. It ain't over until it's Clover, because it was
Okay.
the hag that
Right.
directed them to find the lair for the leprechaun.
That was it. Yeah.
And I believe I said like, "Oh, I promise this." I thought this was a much better placement for it.
And I fully agree.
And so then we went with that, and I kept my promise.
Yeah, you did. Good job. I'm proud of you.
But I'm sure like over the 5 episodes or whatever, it was just like I initially was being a jerk about like, no, this can't happen. I was really just not up for it.
I didn't think you were a jerk at the time. Looking back at it now, I agree. That wasn't a good place for her. She needed a different home, and she found it. All's good.
All is good.
All is good.
Overall, I actually we should talk about our very first episode,
Because
because I've said this multiple times to you off screen or off podcast. I really did not like how our first episode started off.
Yeah.
I did not like that our first episode was a parody off of Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And so I was just a little annoyed because I'm like, I want us to come up with like original ideas or anything like that. I didn't like that it's purely a parody.
Right.
Which is ironic now because over the course of this year, we've done so many parodies off of just other things.
It's really hard to come up with original content. And just doing a parody on something is, honestly, that would, in my opinion, get players more interested in the story if it's something they already know. They're like, oh my gosh, this is totally that. It's exciting.
Or they'll be just like somewhat, it really depends on the player.
It really does.
But they could be stingy. It's like, you just copied Balto.
Yeah.
Which that's a perfect example where I was trying to come up with something original, and then you just flat out, it's like, that's Balto, which was the episode All Is Not Frost. I don't know the number.
I believe that is episode 29.
29.
I'm currently editing that one for YouTube, actually.
It was episode 28, not 29. Yeah, there's sometimes you try to come up with something, and you don't realize that you're actually copying based off something else. And even though actually there's like a scientific phenomenon about that, where people would hear something, and then it'll come up later and they thought it was an original thought and they don't realize that they copied something.
Yeah, it's just the concept is there in the back of their minds and they think they thought this thing up brand new. They don't realize that they're just vaguely remembering that thing from the past.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. And honestly, it's like I'm really sorry I do this to you all the time. He'll come to me with ideas or like this really cool idea for a new character and I'm like, oh, that's just like this one character from Critical Role.
Oh, yeah.
And I just see his entire like excited look on his face just completely deflate. Like he just really, it's been done. I'm like, well, only kind of. It's only sort of like the character. I like try to backtrack a little bit. I always feel bad when I do that to you.
No, it just like every time that happens, it just reminds me of like an episode of South Park, which you don't watch.
I do not.
Where they were making fun of the fact that Simpsons like has been a show for so long.
That's been going for quite a while.
That they've done practically everything.
Mm-hmm.
In which then there's no original like idea anymore.
Mm.
In which one of the characters was like, I'm going to do this thing. And then his friend would be like, Simpsons did it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, where Bart does this, this, and this. And he's like, well, I don't want to do it anymore because they already did it.
Yeah.
And then, so that was the entire episode.
Simpsons already did it.
Where, yeah, it's just like, I want to do this. No, Simpsons already did that.
They also keep accidentally predicting the future.
Yeah, there's also that bit. You've seen those memes.
Yes, I have.
So I think the lesson of that episode was, that's fine if Simpsons already did it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to still do my own thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if someone else did it before me.
There is a lot of media out there. A lot of ideas floating around. And if you just so happen to have the same idea as someone else, albeit maybe a little bit different, that's okay. You had that idea. It's cool.
I mean, we should have like been over it so much quicker because this is, like I said, very heavily inspired by a different podcast.
Right?
That's very similar, but they're actual professionals and they try and make movie scripts instead of D&D quests.
Which is why we say at the beginning of every episode, or at least I say it, that we are not professional writers. I'm not going to say the whole spiel, but you know.
Yeah.
We're not.
We
don't
not
claim to
smart.
be.
We're not professionals.
We have the internet at our fingertips and we still mess up sometimes. It's okay.
So, was there a favorite episode of yours, if
Oh,
you
shoot.
remember?
I mean, I will forever and always love Vampire Gym Bros.
Oh God,
Episode 2.
we always joke around off mic where that is the peak of our creativity, and we've been going downhill ever since.
I think that was more like the diving board for our creativity. After that, I feel like we felt more okay with going out there on ideas.
I mean, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It was very outlandish, and I really like the concept and the excuses and the reasoning behind everything of just, oh, vampires, like, oh, why is it only men? Because they want the testosterone in the blood of only men after they work out and all that stuff. That's why no girls allowed.
Yeah, because estrogen would totally be a downer for them.
I think I jokingly said in the episode, like, if they do get estrogen, like they bite a woman or anything like that, then they actually get weaker.
Yeah, you did mention that.
Because we also talk about, like, oh, the party could come up with, they disguise one of their female companions as men just to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would happen if they think that it's a man and bite into it and there's estrogen instead of testosterone? And it was just really funny.
Trying to remember, there was an episode where there was a mansion and a lady of the mansion. It was like full of ghosts.
Oh, that was the Out of Shorts Part 2. That was the only Part 2 we've ever did.
Yeah, and that was your idea.
Yes, because I was thinking of, I think I said in the episode, after we did it, my mind was still in like that creative mode where I thought, oh, what happens if like they do return the shorts and then you would get something to give to the party later on as like an investment thing.
Yeah. So in
for
that,
their good deeds. And I thought, oh, what happens if it's just like something big like a mansion, but then that turned out to be a negative thing because it's haunted or something like that.
Yeah, and in that episode, I can't remember if we decided that to actually be a thing or we just kind of thought about it for a sec, but we considered it being the same mansion that the Vampire Gym Bros were.
Oh,
originally
yeah.
in.
I think it's because it was still on our mind of like mansion. Vampire Gym Bros were in the mansion and all that.
But I just thought it was fun that we tried to tie our stuff together. And we've done that a few times now, like tying our stuff together, like our episodes into almost a continuing storyline.
How many times have we done that?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
I can't remember. I know we've done it maybe a couple times.
Yeah, because there was, I think it was Trenchcoat Tactics.
Oh, with the mimics. That's
yeah,
right.
we brought in the mimic mugs from, what episode was that now?
That was Prop Hunt.
Prop Hunt, yeah.
I know episode titles. I don't remember episode numbers.
It was episode 6. So, yeah, we tied that all the way up into that one, which, is kind of a sad tie-in. If you haven't listened to it, I'm sorry, but it's sad. But things like that where we're like, oh, hey, but what if this thing from one of our past episodes shows up and it's been like this many years or so and they're doing this now? I don't know. It's like we're almost creating the Questboard cinematic universe or something. You mentioned that in another episode, like the QBCU.
Oh, you actually remember that?
I vaguely remember that, yes.
Even though it's not cinematic, I always thought it was just like...
It's cinematic. It's cinema of the mind.
Oh, now you're pulling my lines.
Am I?
Yeah.
Did you say that?
I've said that where it's just like, oh, you're watching within your mind.
Exactly.
Every time I talk about watching this podcast.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I have an obnoxiously active imagination. So whenever I'm reading a book or listening to a podcast, there's a video going in my head.
Sometimes people actually don't have that.
I know. It's like, I feel bad for them because they can't watch the same videos I watch. But also, they don't know what they're missing out on, so it's okay.
It's just normal for them.
Yeah. And it really throws me off because, like, there's those people that, I'm one of them who can imagine an apple. Okay, now rotate the apple. It is 3D. It is red. It is an apple. I can take a bite out of it, like visually take a bite out of it, and now it's an apple with a bite taken out of it.
The question is, when I have that apple in my head, if I imagine it in my hand, I could create the feeling of what that apple feels like in my hand.
Yeah, I can imagine that as well.
Some people can't even do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
And some people only imagine in black and white. Some people only imagine in like a drawn outline of the
vague
thing.
Shapes or anything like that.
Yeah, and some people just see nothing. And then I am honestly flabbergasted by that and also amazed that it varies that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still going along the lines of like favorite episodes.
Oh, yeah.
After that long tangent.
Sorry, back to that.
Mine is a recent one, so it's usually fresh in the memories.
Yeah.
But I still love the Party Starters Time Travelers Guild.
That was fun.
Which is funny because we only got really into it the last like 5 minutes of that episode, where we're trying to think of like long distance teleportations or anything like that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, what happens if we do time travel, but it's basically Samurai Jack? Again, parody, they already did it.
Yeah.
But and then once I tossed that out there, just got super excited and thought up the final scene, which was just hilarious and all that stuff.
I remember sitting here while you were editing that episode, and you're like, I just got to the part in this episode where we disregard the entire first 20 minutes of the episode.
Yeah. Which is also a funny thing of like, as I've learned recently, like over the past few months, where I would be editing it, but because I know the ending and how we ended up, in the beginning, we'll be talking about just completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be, as listening to it, editing, be like, shut up or just get along with it. We don't go with that. And I get frustrated ourselves because I'm like, just hurry along. This isn't our end product.
But that's the process. We have to talk about those things.
That's the point of this podcast. Yes, I know, of us going through the process.
Yeah.
But for me, as I'm editing, because I just want to be done with editing, because I've talked about how much time throughout this entire year of how much I hate editing. I'm just sitting there editing. I'm just like, just get along with it. I just want to be done.
If anyone would like to be our new editor, please apply now.
If you want to do it for free, because we have no money.
There's that. Yeah, we don't have any money.
We're broke. But yeah, that was one of the things I've learned. Just like, I'm getting frustrated ourselves because I'm like, no, we don't go with this at all. And I think for Time Travelers Guild, that's the ultimate. We don't do anything until we thought of that one thing, and it's just like disregard everything else. But it was the process in which we talked about teleportation that inspired, instead of location-wise, but time-wise, then that's what led to it.
That led us to it. I have a different problem. I have a really bad memory. So when I listen to the episodes again, it's like brand new to me. I don't remember saying any of that. And I've actually gotten to the point where I can listen to my own voice and disconnect and not think I sound weird.
I wish I had that.
It's odd, and it's really hard for me to think of that voice as me because that's not what I hear in my head. But I've been listening through the episodes again so I can upload them to YouTube. So it's almost like listening to them for the first time because I don't remember saying a good solid most of that.
Which is also funny because I remember mostly just what we came up with in the general concept.
Yeah.
And which episodes associated with.
Mm-hmm.
Just the title, not the actual episode number.
Yeah.
But I don't remember like specific lines.
Yeah.
Because you would like, as you were going through the YouTube videos, you would laugh about something and you like share with me like something like a recording like snippet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't remember saying anything like that.
You did. It's in recording. It's on the internet.
Yes. But I don't remember it.
I know.
I don't remember specific lines. I just remember the concept that we made for this episode.
Welcome to a small portion of my bad memory. Not remembering what you've said.
So we talked about favorite episodes or like generally like episodes we liked. What is least favorite episodes?
Tin Pot.
Of course you're going to say that.
I think that's both of our least favorite episode. I'm trying to remember which one exactly it was.
Deal or No Deal was
the
name of the episode.
It was... Here we go, episode 9.
Yeah, we both, we got this sometime.
We both have a list of all of our episodes in front of us because...
Yeah.
Memory.
So that one, we just couldn't think of like how to get a party to...
How do you get a party to want a stupid tin pot?
Yeah. Which, I don't know if you ever... We mentioned it a bunch of times, like I mentioned it a bunch of times for like, I want to say 15 episodes after that. And then I slowly stopped referencing it.
Yeah.
Did you ever thought about that again? Like revisit in your mind?
Like try to figure out how to make a tin pot interesting?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to torture myself.
So for the weeks like leading up to us recording this, I was kind of like mulling over my mind over the past year of everything we've done. And I actually came back to Tin Pot, obviously.
Oh no.
And I thought of one change, but I still can't I don't know how to convince the party to want to do it. Trade a cart for a Tin Pot.
Right.
But I think that the change I thought of was we were thinking about like a plant, like a shambling mound or something like that the party could grow and then be a companion and all that stuff.
Yeah, because the Tin Pot's magical and would grow that.
So I thought of the alternative, which is the party needs to like rub it or like do something, but basically there's a djinn. It's like a magical lamp kind of thing.
Why did that never come up? That would be
This is like 9 months after we recorded it.
Right.
That I'm now thinking of it. In which then you could have basically the DM do you could do 1 wish or 3 wishes, up to you. But then it'll be a monkey paw situation because that's always fun as a DM.
That's how genies work.
For the party to make a wish and then you just twist those words.
Not the genie from Aladdin though. He's so sweet.
Rest in peace, Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And we'll not talk about Will Smith.
I thought he did okay. He tried his best.
It's like doing the Joker after Heath Ledger. You know what I mean?
No, it's like doing the Joker after Mark Hamill.
We're not starting that conversation.
Best Joker.
But yeah, so
Heath
that was
Ledger,
my future alternative for that episode.
Gotcha.
I still can't figure out how to convince a party to trade a cart for a tin pot.
Well, at that point, anyone with detect magic could tell that's a magical pot.
We talked about this in an episode. We're not going back into it.
I know.
That was the only change I had. I couldn't think of anything else.
Well, I do remember the description said that it had flowers painted on it, and we kind of came up with the idea that his daughter had painted it. Maybe she painted over like any thing that showed that it was
like runes or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Besides that, I don't know if this is on your list of like not that great episodes. It's more recent one. Episode 43, Drunken Sailor. I was not happy with. That was the one where the guy had his peg leg stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in that episode, really wanted to make a treasure hunt map.
Yeah.
But then I realized after I was just like, I was gung-ho about it, how hard it is to improv a treasure map.
Yeah.
And I was like, I bit off way more than I can chew. And then afterwards, I remember just like feeling very mid and not that great about the episode.
We have our ups and downs. Like, I remember that one at the very end, like after recording, we were just like, it's an episode.
But that is the best description I ever came up with.
No, I absolutely love that. You wouldn't download a peg leg.
Which is only for our generation.
It really is. We make a lot of 90s kids jokes. I'm sorry if you don't get them. Google it.
I mean, yeah, we did Samurai Jack. We did Balto.
Yeah.
Those are very much things from our childhood.
Yeah. Although Samurai Jack could come back. That rhymed. They made the end of it.
Which, me talking about, like, you wouldn't download Peg, like, that is my all-time favorite joke I've ever did for a description.
Really?
It's hilarious to me. Because of how stupid that ad is. It's just like how they don't do the Got Milk commercials anymore.
No,
there
they
used to
don't.
be a commercial series, not commercial, just advertisements. There will be billboards everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
Posters. And it's
Cars.
just advertising milk. Not a specific brand.
Just milk.
Drink milk. And that was our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no longer a thing.
Well, it's like I used to have a decal on the back of my Jeep that said Got Cosplay, which is a play off of Got Milk.
But then as we're getting older, like the next generation or generation after, they don't understand that at all because they never saw those ads.
I know. Somebody actually wrote in the dust of my Jeep, "No, I don't," after they got cosplay. And it was just like, oh, I'm so sad.
At least they answered.
Yeah, they answered.
They didn't leave you on red. But that reminds me of like us making jokes in the description. Like in the beginning, when we started this podcast, you could tell we were being a lot more serious.
Yeah.
Because Bob the Bandit Boss, Vampire Gym Bros. What was the episode 3?
Glare Bears.
Glare Bears was something we actually, and then after that, then we started doing parodies because I used to remember Bard Behavior.
Yeah.
We started just joking around, but then the descriptions was still serious.
Yeah. Actually, All Dolled Up.
All Dolled Up is the first one we started jokingly doing descriptions.
Yeah, because it's just something wooden doll, something about a backstory of this quest.
Yeah, that was a Star Wars joke.
Yeah.
And then
Or
afterwards,
Star Wars parody joke, wasn't it?
yeah, it was based off of Family Guy making fun of Star Wars.
That's what it was.
Where they had Palpatine say something dark side.
Yeah.
Something complete. And so then it's a parody off of another parody of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning, we were very much more serious about descriptions or titles.
And then we realized we cannot take this seriously. We got to have more fun with it.
I think after Vampire Gym Bros, in which is vampires wanting to get testosterone out of blood, I think that's when our epiphany of we realized that we can't be serious.
Serious is not fun. We were trying to do something fun. I mean, I even say it in our disclaimer. We do this for fun.
Yeah. So we learned that. We started lightening up and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we should also talk, since we're talking about at the very beginning here. We have 2 corrupted episodes. I don't know if we actually I think we sometimes referenced it.
We've mentioned them briefly.
But we haven't fully addressed it. And I think this is a good time to fully address it.
We lost 2 entire episodes. They were the original 2 and 3.
Yes. And I still remember the general thing. Tiffany doesn't remember.
I don't remember a thing.
But what happened was the audio was completely shifted. So my audio would be normal. I will be talking, and then there'll be pauses.
And my response happens
15 seconds later.
Yeah, it's way too long. And then he starts talking again while I'm still talking. But that's just because the audio shifted.
Yes. And there was no way to recover it because it was back when I was recording on a single audio track because I didn't know what I was doing back then.
Yeah.
Also, I found out, I thought, I remember exactly that I had OBS open. We record through OBS. That I was like, if I just leave it open on my computer, because I never turn off my computer anyways.
Yeah.
If I just leave it open, all the settings will be the same. It should be good. And then we recorded, and then after 2 episodes, I was testing it because after 2nd episode, I'm like, we need to start editing it because it's not that great.
Yeah.
Which is really sad to say about on my own podcast, but
or was it 3 and 4 that was the original?
It was when I started
anyway.
I need to start editing it.
Okay, it was probably 3 and 4 then.
After episode 2, I started editing the podcast, and then that's when I saw the tire shift, and I'm like, we can't have anything. And then we had to quickly record new episodes. And that's where I think Glare Bears was we recorded that the morning of that episode came out because we lost 2 episodes.
Right. Yeah.
So we quickly recorded the Sunday. I had to quickly edit it and then released it at noon.
Yeah.
And it was just very much last minute. But then ever since then, every time we start, I do an audio test where we count off between each other so that to make sure that when I say 1, she says 2 next, and then I say 3, because I'm paranoid, and we've been doing it for every episode since.
It's tradition now.
And I'm just so paranoid that I don't want to lose another one.
But because of that, we haven't lost any other episodes. Only those 2.
And why I'm so paranoid is because once we do one of the prompts, we can't do it again. Even though Tiffany hasn't remembered them, I still fully remember what we did and what we came up with.
So I could do a prompt again and come up with a completely different idea. He would remember what we did before.
And I'd be heavily influenced by it.
Yeah.
So we decided it's one and done. We can't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sad, but...
Yeah, but it keeps things interesting.
Halfway through, we started doing character jams and we started doing party starters.
Yeah.
Party starters was based off of 1 episode, which is Plane Sliders, episode 24.
That's technically the first party starter.
Technically, it was based off a different one, and then I was like, oh, we can make that an entirely new thing, and found a different D100 table that's actual campaign starts. I thought this would be an interesting thing we could do.
Right.
And I'm glad we did that. That was a very much different mentality that we could have.
Right, yeah, it's like you gotta remember this is the beginning of the campaign, so they're squishy.
Yes, I kept like reminding both of us, mostly me.
Well,
'Cause
no,
I'm like,
I
I have
needed
to
it too.
reel back about some things.
Yeah.
Like, no, they can't fight like a wyvern yet.
No, that'll squish them.
Or a kraken is like, no, these are level 1 party members.
Yeah.
Even
And
though you
then-
could easily start a campaign at level 5 or level 6 or level 7.
That is true. You could always do that.
And character jam is something you were very pushing about.
Yeah, because I've got this really awesome deck of cards that lets you just kind of tarot card your way into building a character. They're really cool. They're called Fatum, Fatum. I highly recommend supporting them and getting some.
And I think you say that every time we do a character jam.
Yes, because they're awesome, and I would love to promote them. I helped kickstart them, so I kind of have a little stake in this, I guess. I don't know. I feel like it.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's not like you get royalties or anything.
No, but I do get satisfaction.
You should send them an email like, this is something we do. Do you want to sponsor the episodes we do character jam?
Oh, shoot. I totally should.
Yeah.
Our first sponsor.
Oh, that'd
Possibly.
be cool. After that, we did Questober.
Yeah,
I believe that was my idea
it was. It was totally your idea.
because I think it was very much inspired by. I think I said in the first episode of Questober, "Are you afraid of the dark?" Where we just came up with a monster.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, for the spooky month, we could just come up with random monsters and be very descriptive and just go with the horror.
Sometimes a little overly descriptive, and they were kind of creepy.
Well, that's part of the horror is you
Yeah.
have to be overly descriptive.
Yes, you really do.
I was mostly satisfied with those monsters.
I had fun.
I think my least favorite one was, I think it was like It Plays at Night, where it was the Hex Bard. Even though we came up with the best D&D 5e character combo.
So it kind of
Class combo?
accidentally turned into a character jam.
Sort of, but I that one to me wasn't as super scary.
I know, we were trying to lean hard on the scary, and it was just,
That one was the
Not-
hobo one, the bard hobo.
yeah, the musical hobo.
The musical hobo, that's what you kept like calling him.
Yep.
And then the Sins of the Lambs was very much on the similar scale, but that one at least was like you could play off like the knowledge of like sins and all that stuff. That could have been on the creepy side. But It Plays at Night, it was my least favorite one. I
Gotcha.
remember.
And then we've actually talked about this. We haven't fully done one yet. Do you want me to bring up Monster Spotlight?
If we ever like, that was an idea we've tossed around, but I think Questober was basically Monster Spotlight.
Yeah, it totally is. And I would like to try doing this sometime in the future.
So yeah, I think I've like during the time where we brought up Party Starters or Character Jam, I thought of, oh, what happens if we do one called, I think you came up with the name Monster Spotlight.
That's what I do.
But it was an idea where it was similar to It Ain't Over Until It's Clover,
Mhm.
where we start off with a specific thing, where that one was Leprechaun.
Yeah.
And so we built around that. So it was based off of that where we pick a random monster from like the monster manual, and it's like, okay, we make a quest around this monster.
Yeah, so instead of starting with a quest, like from the quest board, we come up with a quest based on the monster and based on the story that we come up with.
Yeah. So that was our idea, my idea to do that, but then we just never bothered doing it
We just haven't yet.
because we were just focused on like Character Jam or Party Stars. We already had like that kind of variety.
Mm-hmm.
And then Questober came up, and then that basically was it.
Yeah, but I would like to work that into our regular programming. I guess if any of you want to hear it, say something. Let us know if you want to hear a Monster Spotlight.
Yeah, we have to figure out how to randomly integrate it, like how
Mhm.
to randomly decide the monster instead of pre-selecting. Because I've always wanted, like for me at least, I have to not know anything until we start recording, and then I come up with something.
Yeah, but I can turn off my creativity so I could choose the monster for you.
Or like that, yeah. We'll have to decide in the future or anything like that. That also reminds me, a little tidbit or a little taste of a future episode. I've told this to Tiffany in the past. The D100 table that we use for our regular quest board episodes, I've looked over those. And because initially I wasn't planning on using that table, I was using it for a inspiration to make side quests for a D&D campaign I had with my friend that I was DMing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking over just for inspiration. And then the whole podcast idea came up. I'm like, oh, I'll just use this. But since I've looked over, there's one specifically that I thought of that was stuck in my mind because it was on the first page.
Ah.
So it gives you a reference. If she rolls low, there's the chance. And I came up with a twist, like a standard quest board level twist to do it.
Oh, boy.
And it's been stuck in my mind. And I will flat out admit when it actually comes up, hey, this is the one that I've thought of since the very beginning. This is my idea. And it'll be really sad if that was like, oh, you'll probably say, I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure you'll be like, I love it. Let's do that. But then that will be it.
It's just like the character jam episodes where you come up with the whole character while I'm listing off the different parts of it.
Yeah. And well, we've come up with workarounds.
Yeah.
That you could contribute as well.
I mean, of course. I always know that I can contribute to that, so.
But there's one that I remember distinctly, and I've made a quest in my head, and it's going to be, eventually it'll come up.
Yeah.
We're eventually going to go through all 100.
That's the plan.
Minus the 2 that was the corrupted episodes.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you look forward to that.
I look forward to it. I want to know what the quest is, because I refuse to look at the list.
Yes. And knowing that that table is used for the podcast, I refuse to read anything else.
It's like I actually did use that list beforehand to come up with quests for the D&D campaign that I DM, but I've since forgotten which ones I used.
Which reminds me, yes, a few of our episodes have already had those.
Prop Hunt actually was one of them, wasn't it?
Prop Hunt was one of them.
I do remember that one.
You made it into a pseudo dragon.
Yeah.
That we had to hunt down. And yeah, it was the campaign that you're DMing that I'm a part of.
Yes, that one.
Hangover, where it was bringing alcohol to a party.
Right, I do remember that now.
My party, when we did that, you just had us like deal alcohol that was in the bandit camp for a different quest we were doing.
Yeah.
And we just brought it over. We didn't even get reward for that.
No, it was just a party.
Yeah, we just brought alcohol and like it wasn't done. Nothing was done about it.
You got to have a party.
It was very much a sub quest where
yes.
It's very much in the background. I think that's it so far.
Yeah, I don't think you've hit the other ones, but I just don't remember them, so.
I possibly would remember, but
don't try.
The alcohol one, I didn't even remember until afterwards, and then we talked about it.
Yeah.
And speaking of like things in the background, I just want to say first off, something that's like very much you guys never realized it was back before we recorded in person, and that was like in the middle of Questober.
Oh gosh.
When you heard rolling dice, we were recording over Discord.
Yeah.
In which Tiffany would roll, like in the episodes, like Tiffany rolled the dice and she'll give me the number.
Yes, and I did roll dice. I do actually still roll dice, and I always did roll dice.
Yes. So initially, I wanted her to be involved in the beginning part, but since I had the list and I was going to read from the list, I'm like, okay, you roll. And
yeah,
because it would be like unfair for me to be like, okay, let's see what it is. And then I roll, and then I'm like, okay, this is what I rolled. And it would seem like you're not co-host, or you're like just sitting over there and just doing whatever.
Yeah, I'm just here.
Sitting there look pretty for the audio podcast. And so I wanted you to roll. And we were kept trying in the beginning of like you rolling, and I'm like, it's not picking up.
Yeah, because Discord filters out background noises.
Yes, which is great.
Yes.
But for this, I was like, it's not picking up. And then you tried a digital roller, like Google digital rollers, anything like that, and was not picking up. And I was like, okay, what we're going to do is.
Yep.
I had these heavy like obsidian dice.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really great. I would roll my dice at the same time I told Tiffany to roll her dice. And what you heard was me rolling the dice, and then Tiffany just reading what she rolled, and I would just set the dice aside.
Yep.
You didn't hear Tiffany's dice roll. But that does remind me, I don't know which ones it was. I think it was a total of 2 times we rolled the exact same number.
Yeah, I remember.
And I remember internally, like, there might have been some pauses that, I don't know, or like me sounding weird. I have no memory if I sounded weird, but I was internally screaming like, oh my God, we rolled the same.
And I remember when we stopped recording, the first thing he said was, "We re-rolled the same number."
Because what are the odds?
I mean, it's out of 100 at least, right?
It's
No, out of 200? I don't know odds.
It's 1 in 1,000. No, 10,000.
That's
it's 100 times 100.
That's worse.
But yeah, so until we were in person, it was me rolling and Tiffany just saying what she rolled.
Now I'm rolling a different set of dice. They're his dice. They're actually from a set of dice he got from Dungeons and Daddies.
Yeah, it's a really nice set. It's the Odyssey dice set.
Yeah.
We actually, when we started like testing out in person, we rolled like several different dice and see which one had the best audio quality.
We went through all of his dice and rolled them to test which ones sound coolest.
Because I'm a fan of heavy dice sets.
Yes. You do have some good heavy dice.
They always feel much better than the, what is the normal dice made out of?
My brain just stopped functioning. Resin.
Resin. My brain wasn't functioning because I couldn't remember either.
Oh, it was like steam coming out of my ear at that point.
Resin dice, they're fine and all that stuff.
Yeah.
When you want to roll in mass.
Yes.
But for a D20, I just like a heavier thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we tested out multiple, and then we found one that sounded the best, which just remind me, after us recording this, since we do have new mics, I need to test how that sounds.
If it even picks it up.
Yeah, I need to test that out.
Gotta test everything. Gotta make sure. Gotta be paranoid.
I don't even know if, like, because we've talked about, like, not even, like, having it and just pre-recording dice rolls.
Yeah.
And me just putting it in. But I've always been against that.
Me too.
Because it's just, like, we need the actual roll.
It needs to be real. It needs to be, I guess, organic, as my college teacher used to say a lot.
Yeah, pretty much organic. But besides that, the other behind the scenes thing that I want to talk about is us coming up with title names.
Oh, gosh.
Because I don't know if we've talked about it or anything like that, but it's very much a chore.
It's a journey, at least.
Some of these ones that we come up with is very difficult.
Some of them make themselves.
Some of them are like super easy.
Mm-hmm.
It was real quick.
Glare Bears wrote itself. I remember that much.
Bone Crusher's Ready was an easy one.
Well, that name was literally in the quest, so we had that to work with.
But then we were a fan of Spider-Man, and we knew Bonesaw.
Yeah, everybody remembers Bonesaw.
We've been trying to come up with puns or parodies or anything like that, and so sometimes we'd just be Googling like movies or our favorite pun generator.
There's this one website. I don't remember what it's called, but we usually end up on it, and we both know when the other has ended up on it because we start suggesting some of the worst puns you have ever heard. It's fantastic. And I don't think any of our actual episode titles have come from that site. It's
no.
We just end up there.
No. We had.
Oh my gosh, one actually did.
Yeah, remember it's a recent Party Starters one where it's all In God We Rust.
Oh, yeah.
Cuz I remember hating that we got it from there.
Yeah.
But it was such a good title.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll be real quick and we get it. And then other times it's such a slog. And we're sitting there in a quiet room, just not talking to each other, staring up at the ceiling, trying to think of a good name.
It's like you don't imagine coming up with the title of an episode as being the hardest part, but sometimes it is. And it's silly that it is. It's like you think, you just take the context of the episode, come up with something from the episode. Yeah, but you want to make it interesting.
I remember when we started Questober, we came up with our usual pun names.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, I think, the second episode, I was like, wait a minute. What happens if we do these based off of horror movie like titles?
Which fortunately, the first one already was.
No, the first one wasn't.
It wasn't?
No, that wasn't the... Evasion of the Memory Snatchers was not the original name we came up with, and we changed it afterwards.
Okay, I didn't remember that.
And then I think it was like after we came up with because Night of the Eldritch Dead, we came up with a different title, but then right afterwards, I'm like, what happens if we do this based off of horror movies?
Yeah.
Because I think we made that one based off the horror movie.
Yeah.
Night of the Eldritch Dead. I'm like, what happens if we do that for all of them? And so then we had to go back to the first one.
And so we both found this list of, I don't know.
Top 100
horror
movies. and we just both scrolled through it. It's like, what about this? What about that?
Yeah. And so that's how we came up with those.
Well, there was like some that's like, oh, this will work, but it's such a niche horror movie title that no one's gonna get that it's based off
And
of a horror movie.
so many horror movies are just one-word titles.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We couldn't use those.
Because we couldn't twist it.
Yeah.
I've talked about possibly recording us coming up with it, but when we have the slog,
Yeah.
it's probably not interesting, or we come up with it interesting right off the bat and we laugh about it, but then it'll be just over real quick.
Yeah. Super
So
short.
I don't know if you want like down in the comments or anything like that, if you're actually interested in hearing us trying to come up with the title names or like how we do that. I don't know if you want to listen to that. Let us know if you do.
It'd be a lot of brain farts.
Oh, we sound like idiots.
And just the amount of puns that we go through sometimes is just, it's so many puns. And half the time we're just groaning about them because it's just like, no, that one's awful. And then sometimes like we'll find a few that are just perfect and we're like, crap, now which one do we use?
Well, it's also, eventually we're going to get to a point where it's like, oh yeah, this will work. We already made a pun off of that movie title.
Oh, we've tried to, which one was it? It was a really early episode. A Heist to Remember. I keep wanting to use that.
Oh, in the future?
Yeah, I keep wanting to use I'm forgetting the original.
A Walk to Remember.
Yes.
It was a rom-com movie. I was the one who came up with that.
Yeah.
I have the same thing with To Catch a Cure.
Yes.
That episode. Because it's based off of To Catch a Predator, To Catch a Thief.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different variants on that.
Yeah.
But To Catch a Cure, we finally did it, and I kept thinking like every time of doing that. But that's not the first time we used that title. The first time we used that title was one of the Corrupted episodes.
Yep.
It was To Catch a Kobold, because one of the things, the party had to find a kobold thief.
Mm-hmm.
And so the name of the actual episode was To Catch a Kobold.
Yeah.
But then it became a Corrupted episode, and then we used, so then that
kind of became free reign again.
naming pun became free, and we didn't wait until episode 21 to finally use it.
Yep.
Editing Brandon here, with Tiffany.
Hi.
Just to add in some of our favorite, like when I edit, like editing in jokes.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorites?
Oh man, you throw in a lot of random stuff. I can't really think of any off the top of my head. I like all of the random editing moments because it's either expanding on something that we had no knowledge of. Oh, probably one of my favorite ones. What was that episode called? It was an early-ish one, All Is Not Frost, where after, like, towards the end, you edited it and said, so basically we just copied this movie that exists that we don't know about.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Was it Tremors 3?
Tremors like 4 or something like that.
Yeah, the
Cold
one
Day in Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, so we just remade this movie. It's a thing already.
Well, when I first started editing things in and like edit Brandon here, one, I realized that I couldn't differentiate if I was still like editing Brandon or like we're doing recording.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I found the swoosh sound effect, and I'm really glad I did that.
I like the swoosh.
But in the beginning, it was very much more like I need to make corrections and like, hey, we were wrong about this, or we learned about this afterwards.
Yeah.
Like the Alice Shorts Part 2, I corrected myself about the whole Bloody Mary thing and like the actual historical aspect about that. We were talking about two different people.
Yeah, we were completely off.
Or I think I edited in like, oh, we were talking about this island for Escape the City Escape.
Right.
Because we were determining what island that the party started off that's in Puget Sound.
And we were both looking in completely different areas.
Well, you were like actually near Seattle, and I was just off in La La Land. I don't know. I was just being dumb, and I had to admit that.
I was like, how do maps work again?
There was also, I think the first comedic one was sort of not really comedic, but for It Ain't Over Until It's Clover, I edited my friend Tyler doing his Irish accent.
Yeah,
which was really good.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I started like it started becoming a little bit more funny.
Mm-hmm.
In which my favorite one was, it was the hurricane one.
Oh yeah.
where you were like, we were talking about like a cow flying around and then like almost hitting the party, and you're like adding the splash sound effects.
Oh gosh.
And at the time we were recording, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to even bother doing that. There's times where I'm just lazy and I don't want to like spend the time to edit in just a small gag like that.
Yeah.
But then when I was editing it, I was like really bored that morning.
Oh gosh.
And so I had to like say, I did it anyways.
Yeah.
But what was so funny about that one was it was very much a very deadpan me saying, I was bored, so I did it anyways. But the reason why it was so deadpan is because that was the first words I spoke that day. Because normally when I like wake up, I don't talk. And so those were the very first words I spoke that day. That's why it was like very deadpan, just not like how I normally sound, because I haven't warmed up my like vocal cords or anything like that. And so it was funny because of it. Also, what was that? It was the recent one, the A for Avengers.
Yeah.
Where I spent the time.
I remember you showing me that one. Yes.
I spent the time.
Oh my gosh.
And I found a crappy recorder version of the Avengers theme song.
It's beautiful.
And that just was so much funnier. Oh, also.
Another one.
Yeah, the Questober one, where it was the last one. And so I didn't need to roll a dice because we only have one prompt left for the final week. Right. And you said, "Oh, just edit a dice, editing a roll."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "You didn't say it would need to be a dice roll." So I found a random sound effect of a office chair rolling, and then me saying she didn't say what kind of roll she wanted.
I did not. That's my own fault right there.
And I thought I was just like laughing to myself about that one. And I remember when I recorded that, you were in the same room at the time. We were just starting off being in the same room.
Yeah.
And I quickly said, like, she didn't say what kind of role she wanted. And then you immediately looked at me confused because I didn't warn you that I was, like, recording something.
Yeah.
And then I had to, like, put it together real quick and then, like, let you listen to it.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's like, well, you didn't. You got me on that one.
Usually for the jokes, I let you listen beforehand. It's like, are you okay with this? I usually ask your permission.
He's real good about making sure nothing gets out there that I would not approve of.
Any just editing joke that I did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's others that was funny. I just can't think of them right now.
Hey, let us know what your favorite editing joke is.
Along with all the other things that I'm editing in now. So it's so meta. Anyways, back to normals.
I'm just flabbergasted that we've gone for a year. Honestly, it's been a really, really awesome experience. I'm just always so proud to be like, oh yeah, I'm in a podcast. We talk about this. And I think a lot of my family members might be sick of me talking about it by now, but they're like, oh, you're still doing that? And I'm like, yeah, it's still going.
That shows that they don't listen to it.
No, they're not into D&D or anything adjacent to it.
Yeah, that's why I don't talk about it with my family.
I mean, my dad likes listening to podcasts, so.
That's more than what my family does. So there's like no point.
Aw.
But I think then, just want to say congratulations on 1 year or sticking around for 1 year.
Congratulations to you too.
Here's to many more.
Yep.
And so next week we'll start our regular thing. I don't know how to wrap this up.
I don't either. I guess if you have any quests for us, let us know at QuestboardPod on Twitter, or leave a comment down below on any of our YouTube videos.
Down on the comments or on Twitter, let us know what your favorite moment of this year.
Oh yeah.
Our first year was your favorite moment. And yeah, if you have any suggestions once we go back to our regular thing, let us know on Twitter at QuestboardPod. Or down in the comments.
Let me know if you want us to start Monster Spotlights.
Also, yeah, down in the comments, talk about Monster Spotlight. I think with that, I wish you all a good night.
And happy questing.